What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here. We are back with another YouTube short because today the paperwork was official. DeAndre Hopkins was released from the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a receiver who was mentioning quarterbacks that he would like to play with just a week ago, and Jalen Hurts was on that list. So today, let's talk about if DeAndre Hopkins to Philadelphia is actually in a reasonable expectation, the odds of that happening, and if not here, where else could that be, the potential shooters, and maybe we'll just rank them in order of realistic capabilities for those teams to get DeAndre Hopkins and him wanting to go there. Before we do, make sure to like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to our YouTube page. We've seen a few hundred subscribers since the draft, which is fantastic. We're super appreciative of that. Last week, we were talking OTAs for the Eagles and the Cowboys. We'll be back this week doing that as well. Maybe the Cowboys come up on this episode. Maybe Kevin talks about DeAndre Hopkins to the Cowboys on his thing. But we did an interview last week again with Cowboys Due Diligence. So go back and listen to that if you're wanting to catch up, because he was pretty interesting and knows his stuff draft-wise too. So that was really good. But today, the focus is DeAndre Hopkins and DeAndre Hopkins only. We're like an AFC South coach in the 2010s getting ready for a game. We're just totally focused on DeAndre Hopkins. I think the overall popular opinion among Eagles fans is he likely won't come here. There are just too many other suitors. Would it be a good fit? We already have two substantially target-hungry wide receivers in A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. So would it make sense for him to come here? I don't know. He's a good option. Probably not. I don't think I'm with the popular opinion. I would actually really enjoy DeAndre Hopkins on this team. And in a game that is an arms race, yeah, sign me up for another wide receiver like this. So before we get into why I think so, let me just go over the potential suitors that aren't the Eagles. I do think that the Eagles, I would put them in my top four. But at 1, I have Buffalo. At 2, I have Cleveland. At 3, I have Kansas City. 4, I have Philadelphia. And at 5, if we had to round out a top 5 like we do on TikTok, I would go with Baltimore. I think this is a no-brainer for Buffalo. This is a team that went out and got Dalton Kincaid. And just if you were listening to a lot of draft conversation leading up to it, this was a team that just felt like they were a piece off. Like they just didn't have enough weapons last year. It was Stephon Diggs or nothing. They don't have a great running game. It's just a lot is on Josh Allen. So it just feels like if they're a team that needs another weapon, and that's what they wanted to address in the draft, DeAndre Hopkins falls into your lap. Why not? And it's kind of what he wanted. You know, he wants a winning team. He wants a quarterback that he believes in. He named some of the quarterbacks that he would want to play with. Jalen Hurts was obviously on that list, but he had Josh Allen as well. This is a no-brainer for Buffalo. Like, sign up for this immediately. Why haven't you yet? This should have been paperwork filed. All right, let's bring DeAndre in. And then Cleveland, just because today Deshaun Watson was talking about how interested he would be and reuniting with his old teammate from Houston and DeAndre Hopkins. So we'll see if that plays a factor into it. I just don't think Cleveland, I just don't feel like they're close. There's nothing that you watched them last year where you're like, yeah, they're close. They're a Super Bowl contender, which is what Hopkins wants. And Kansas City is going to be involved in all of these. That's just who they are. It's like the Warriors, like they were always going to get the veterans that were released because everybody was ring chasing. So I just think Kansas City will always be on the list. Philly, I'll obviously get into, and Baltimore, just because I've heard some rumors on the internet that he would be interested. And again, a team where felt like they're pieces away, and you have a quarterback who's a proven winner, somebody Hopkins would like to play with. Why not give him more talent so he can succeed and thrive if you're committed to him financially now, like they are? So let's get into the Philly thing. I think it's not the price. Like, we have this cap space, $12 million. All right. Like, we can fit him in easily. He's not getting the $19 million that a rebuilding Arizona team didn't want to pay. They have the perfect coach to rebuild because he's a fucking loser in Jonathan Gannon. So they've got that. So that makes sense, but you don't have to sacrifice much cap space to bring DeAndre Hopkins in, and it's probably going to be a short-term deal as well. So it's not really the cap space that turns people off. It's not the talent. Now, Hopkins is 30. He's coming off a season where it was kind of a lost season. He had a 6-game suspension, came back, had 10 receptions in his first game back on 14 targets, 134 yards, and then Kyler gets hurt. So he's kind of almost this forgotten about guy on a bad team. He was catching from different quarterbacks last year and didn't even play in the first 6 games because he had the suspension. So, and the year before he had a hamstring injury, so he wasn't out on the field. So it's back-to-back years since he's been in Arizona where he's just kind of been lost and forgotten, but he's still a productive wide receiver. So it's not production. What I keep hearing from fans is, well, we already have A.J. Brown. We already have DeVonta Smith. We have to cater to them. We have to get them targets. We have Dallas Goedert. He has to get his targets in. So why would we bring in another guy? Why would we bring in another guy who needs targets? You know, we have multiple wide receivers who are good. We don't need DeAndre Hopkins. This whole word need. Well, we don't need him. Okay, let's stop right there. You do. The rich get richer. This is an arms race. You're trying to compete with Kansas City, who you couldn't get a stop in the Super Bowl. You are trying to compete with these other teams who are improving and now coming after you this year. You cannot be complacent and just say, well, we already have two good guys, so that means we can't get a third. Wrong. Incorrect. And you look at it, I still like Quez Watkins, but he is what he is for a sixth round pick. And I don't think he is a satisfactory wide receiver 3 in the NFL. He serves his purpose, which is to take the top off the defense with his speed. But where is the trust level in him with our coaching staff going into this year? After a big drop in the Super Bowl, the first loss of the season was kind of on him with the fumble. And where is he because of a shoulder injury that people forget about? On an end around, he jammed it and wasn't the same. Where do they believe in Quez Watkins? What's the trust level that the coaching staff has? Is he a wide receiver 3 in this league? We don't know. So why are we not looking at bringing in just another weapon? You should be loading up on weapons. Low risk, high reward weapons. Target volume should not matter. You shouldn't say, oh, we already have two guys, so that means we can't bring in a third. No, do not have that line of thinking. If you're rich, like if you're like a character from Succession and the new McLaren comes out, are you going to be like, well, I already have a Ferrari and I already have a Lamborghini, so I might not get the McLaren? That's not how you operate. That just is not how it goes. And the biggest thing for me, last year, it was unprecedented where you had all 22 starters who started the season were the 22 starters that played in the Super Bowl. That is unheard of. It does not happen. This is not Madden where you can turn the sliders off and injuries don't occur. It is going to happen. A.J. Brown in 2020, knee injury, missed multiple weeks. 2021 had a hamstring injury, missed 2 games. It was nagging for a while. He wasn't his productive self. Dallas Goedert, 2020, fractures his ankle, comes back last year, fractures his collarbone. So on paper, these guys are getting targets for you, but that's not how this works. You need depth, load up. This is the beauty of it. You have such a solid foundation who is all locked up financially. Aside from maybe DeVonta Smith, who will also be locked up financially long term quite soon. But that doesn't mean that you can't build on that foundation and go out and get more weapons. Who cares if you have 2 guys that need targets? Get another one. Make it impossible for teams to cover you on any single route. There is no secondary in the NFL that could keep up with a trio when they're all healthy of A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, DeVonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And even if that means DeAndre gets less reps because he's filling in for AJ, or if he's filling in for DeVonta Smith and one of these guys really isn't going to play the slot, who cares? Who cares? Spread them out and make them cover all 4 of these guys plus Quez Watkins for an entire game. And then turn around and hand it off to one of the phenomenal running backs that you have acquired this offseason, who are also injury prone and very notably injury prone behind this great offensive line. So you have all this on paper where you say, oh, well, we have these guys. But you have a lot of guys who end up on the injured list quite often and have a questionable queue when you go into your fantasy football app every week. So let's not just assume that we're going to have the same injury luck that we had a year ago. Load up. It is an arms race. Everything you're doing right now is to be better than Kansas City. And I love Jalen Hurts, but nobody is ever going to be better for Patrick Mahomes than the next decade. How are you going to beat him? You have to outscore him. You have to be on the field constantly. You have to score every single time you play this team. That is the goal. You came up 1 possession short. Every move this offseason is to make sure you get back there and don't end up a possession short. And they've done a phenomenal job. They've drafted accurately with logic, bringing in Georgia defensive players. They brought in high ceiling running backs to fill in for Miles Sanders, and it didn't cost them a lot of money. Why stop there? Why not bring in DeAndre Hopkins, who would want to play for this team, has said he wants to play for this team, and people want to play with Jalen Hurts? Send a message. People want to be here. People want to play with Jalen Hurts. Make this an arms race. Load up. And if you're this is a great way to decide if this is a smart move. If we wake up tomorrow and DeAndre Hopkins is an Eagle, what would Kevin say? My co-host is a Cowboys fan. What would a Giants fan say in your life? What would the Commanders say if they still care about football? Who knows at this point? They would be pissed. They would be downtrodden because we would have gotten better. That is all this is about. Make sure you are so good that you don't fall possession short this time. Make sure there is no doubt in a 49ers fan mind who was winning that NFC championship when you play again this December. Make sure that everyone in your division knows we have the best offense. You can't stop it. You just don't have the corners and you don't have the secondary to do it. Leave no doubt. None of this, we already have 2 guys. Get a third. Load up. Get more arms. So I am all in on the Eagles signing DeAndre Hopkins. And if you're new to this show, we have a lot of new subscribers. This is uncharacteristic of me. I'm not usually the, go get X. I talk all the time. One of the faults of the Eagles fans, we have shiny new toy syndrome. Somebody comes available and we just have to have him. He's going to be an Eagle. It's Howie season, all this stuff. That's usually not how I operate. This time it is. Go ahead and do it. Low risk, high reward. Get as many weapons as possible. We sat through too many seasons where we didn't have even a wide receiver 1. Go ahead and have a wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 3, and a top 5 tight end. And make sure you're just putting up 30 every week. It'll be fun. Why not? Let's do it. We'll be back this week. We've got a full show talking Eagles, Cowboys, off-season training, OTAs in full swing, and we'll have some more interviews coming soon. Kevin and I will be back. Make sure to like and subscribe in the meantime, and by the next time we talk to you, we'll see where DeAndre Hopkins is. If it's me, I'd love for him to be an Eagle. We'll talk to you soon.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone. If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes. Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach. That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.